evening and welcome. I don't know what to call it tonight. We normally have Katie sitting here, so sorry, Matt. But we have a slightly different format tonight. So welcome everyone, or anyone that's joining us. There's people here already. Welcome. We normally do a question and answer session here, but tonight we're doing a slightly different format, and I'm absolutely blown away and excited and whatever the rest of the expressions are to have Matt with us tonight. I'll introduce you to Matt in a second. But Matt, I think we met, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And we met through TSM and through the Sinclair Method side of things. And yeah, just from speaking to Matt from the very early onset, I don't know, something just clicked, and something was just an absolutely amazing guy with an amazing story from the Sinclair Method. So tonight, he very kindly said he'd come on and have a chat and talk a little bit about his journey through the Sinclair Method, or the lead up to the Sinclair Method, and to see how that whole process worked. So, as they say, without further ado, good evening, Matt.
Good evening. Thanks for the intro.
I was trying to and build up something big and fancy, and then I thought, yeah, we'll do that later. You always do it, put someone on a pedestal, and then it's all of a sudden. So
yeah, it's downhill.
So, yeah, welcome.
Yeah. So well, we met through Claudia. So I was speaking to Claudia about coaching and stuff like that, and I wanted to expand my network, and that was why she put me in contact with you. Yeah, and I think we were on a Zoom call for about 2.5 hours or something. It was just a quick, hi, and it just ended up being an over 2-hour phone Zoom call, which was like you say, something clicked.
Yeah, my wife always says that I can talk for Scotland, so I think there's probably got 2 of us together. So we had a quick chat before we came on, and we were just talking about how long. We're normally about an hour, but if we run on to an hour and a half tonight, then feel free to disappear and go and get your tea or your food if we're still talking. So, but no, welcome, Matt. And I've heard a little bit of Matt's story and a little bit of his background and his lead up to where he is today. And so yeah, and again, like I said, I've just met Matt, so a lot of it will be new to me. And again, Matt, only go to places where you want to go to with the whole thing. Don't discuss anything you don't want to discuss. Cool. But I think I normally start off with 3 what do we call them, icebreaker questions or something, just mad to get us started. Okay. Your favorite food? What's your favorite food?
It's probably curry.
Curry, yeah. Which sort?
Yeah. Hot Madras, something like that.
Very good. And any country in the world that you haven't visited that you would love to go to?
I get this massive pull to like America, so I feel like I've never been to America, but I've got this massive urge to go there and be a part of. Sorry, we've got a new puppy who's kicking off in the background. So yeah, America, I would say.
America, okay. And favorite sport? I hear you're a black belt in karate.
No, it's jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I've not long started it, and it's I don't know. It's frustrating and amazing all at the same time. But I'm not long into it. Probably 8 months or so now, sort of on and off. But yeah, I love BJJ.
Yeah. And I have to ask you this one as well. Are you a football man? I haven't actually asked you this question yet.
No.
You're not?
I used to be. I used to be a long time ago. I used to support Coventry City. I'm from Coventry. Yeah. I think it was just one of them things. It takes like time and effort and energy to keep up with scores and who's where in what position, in the league. And I wasn't that interested in it. So kind of after my football playing days, backed out of it, and I wasn't too interested.
So there's another quick question. Your football playing days, you're not going to say that you were sort of England juniors? England...
No. I was top goal scorer for Horsley Aces back in the under 14s. But we got hammered most weeks, sort of like 15, 16-0. So the kind of 1 or 2 goals that I got back were nothing when it came to goal difference anyway. So.
The answer's meant to be I was on the verge of playing for England, and I did my knee and I had an injury and I couldn't keep playing.
Yeah. I think we all know someone that's that had trials.
So brilliant. Okay, I think we'll just jump in then and find just start finding out a bit about your journey and what's been going on. I think probably the best place to start is just a little bit about yourself. But who are you? Where are you? What do you do? Anything in that?
Yeah, well, Matt, Coventry, which is England for those that aren't in the UK. I've got a carpentry business, so we make furniture from reclaimed materials, mainly scaffold boards, joists, any reclaimed materials really. Like the old, like the kind of scaffold table legs and all that kind of stuff. That's the thing that we do. Started that. Married, 2 kids, 2 dogs now. So prior to that, I was, I guess my interests are like DIY and stuff like that. I'm quite handy when it comes to that. Qualified as an electrician, ran an electrical company for a little while, qualified as a bricklayer, carpenter. There's a few strings to my bow through different things really. If I'm honest, maybe I was always searching for the thing to distract me from alcohol. Maybe, it was. I was a wedding photographer for 3 years. There's, and I do think like every time I was a bit like, oh, maybe this is the thing that will save me, and this will be the thing that will distract me. But a little bit of a shiny object syndrome. I'd go down the road so far and be distracted with. And I wouldn't say it was like, serious, even when I was doing the electrical thing, it wasn't like my drinking wasn't out of control back there, but it was definitely tripping me up and getting in the way. And that was back in 2007 when we bought our first house. So, I was in insurance for longer than I care to remember. I was a commercial insurance broker for a while. Before that, I was in personal lines insurance, which is like your car and house and stuff. So I was office bound for years and kind of had the courage to break away from that and start this, this carpentry business. Good mate of mine actually gave me a way. So basically, I was really worried about leaving my insurance job and stepping out into, doing things for myself and into the big wide world. And he's a builder, and he was like, Matt, if you need work, tell me how many days. You phone me on a Sunday night and say, look, I need X amount of money this week. Then you come and work for me for X amount of days and earn that amount of money. So he took a massive, massive burden off me of relying on that wage. So when I did, in fact, I never ended up, I broke off from the insurance, started this business, and it just went, just went crazy. I never had that conversation on a Sunday night to pick up the phone and say, look, I need work this week. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell, really.
So and to be a sparky and a joiner and a brickie all in one go is a pretty big thing. Yeah. I actually lived down near you, well, not far from you, for a while down in Cambridge. And I remember I was a brickies labourer when I first left school, and the brickies made it look so simple. And I said, just give me the trowel. I said, I could do that, no problem. And after, I think about 5 minutes, I handed the trowel back, and I thought, no. I said, I'll just carry the
art to it. Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, each one of them started off as a hobby. So the electrical thing was, I wanted to rewire the house. We didn't have the money to do it. So I thought, well, I'll learn to rewire the house. And I did. I learned to rewire, I learned electric and rewire the house. We wanted to put up an extension at the back. We couldn't afford an extension. So I went to college to learn how to lay foundations and brickwork. So we put our own extension up,
I can understand learning carpentry, and I can understand learning bricklaying, but you don't really want to be playing with electrics.
No. It scared me. That's why I learned about it. Because it scared me. I felt like I had to learn about it. So
yeah, because you can learn by trial and error about where to bang a nail.
Not with that.
But not with electrics. You learn that one once. That's brilliant. Okay. So then, at what stage did you feel that you were starting to, or drink was starting to get a hold of you, or how did that whole thing start?
So, I suppose there's no black and white period really where you go, oh, what? Now I've got a problem with alcohol. It's like a silent assassin, if you like. It just creeps in. I remember a conversation with a friend, my brother-in-law's brother-in-law, and we were sat around. We're at the pub, and he said, "I'm going to have a break from alcohol in January." And I was like, "Why are you doing that?" And he was like, I've not had a break from drinking for probably over 15 years, like a week. He hasn't gone a week without drinking for over 15 years. And I kind of thought, you know what? I don't think I've ever done that myself. So maybe that was like one of the first times that I thought maybe there's something there. But I guess when you get your own, like when I got my own house, I got my own house, and then I was like, it was a drink on a Friday night and a Saturday night, and then that might turn into a Sunday night, and then that was kind of a drinking weekend, and then it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, and then you just, kind of before you knew it, you were, and it was cool, it's like working on the house or whatever. Let's have a beer, let's chill and have a beer afterwards, or you've had a hard day at work. Let's have a beer. You've had a good day, a bad day, any kind of day, any celebration, any mishap. It was, let's have a beer, let's chill out, and it just kind of got more and more and more. And I guess it was kind of you start looking at the world and start blaming things like, I'm not happy in my job, and it's my job that pulls me down, and my job's like annoying me and depressing me, and I feel down, and you solve that problem by having another drink.
Yeah.
You don't identify the drink as kind of being the cause for it. So I was annoyed at work, but I'd moan about it. I'd love to have a moan about it, but would I do anything about it? No. Just have a beer at night and forget about it and go to work the next day, and just get in that kind of trap and that loop of, this is just what it's supposed to be, and I'll just crack on and muddle through. I guess I got to a stage as well where I did get depressed, and I had to go on depressants for a while. And then, Dan, can you just... And they went on. Sorry, the dogs are kicking off here.
No, don't worry.
Well, you can hear it. So I went on to depressants, and again, it wasn't. I didn't pick up really that it was the drinking that was leading into that kind of thing. It was work for me. It was, the pressures of it, or I wasn't being appreciated. I was, it was everything else, but and I was protecting the drink. Like when it eventually when it got to it, and I was like, I then was shielding it and protecting it, and that was my safe haven. That was my go-to. It was consistent.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter how the day went, how I felt, however I was, I could consistently feel all right at the end of any day by having a drink. And it wouldn't matter how I woke up, because it was a kind of a new normal. It was just, I forgot how normal felt, and just drinking of an evening and waking up with a hangover and operating normally just became the normal. So you kind of forget where you stand, where your standard is, I guess. So yeah, I suppose when I first got the house, and working on the house, working a full-time job, we bought the worst house in the kind of the best street that we could afford, thinking about making a little bit so we could invest that into the next one. So there was a lot of work to do. We didn't stop for a good few years. So yeah, I would say that was probably the time there, really.
Yeah. And then you're saying that it's slowly crept up on you, and it's fascinating when I speak to clients that everyone's exactly the same. There isn't a kind of a time and a place where it suddenly goes boom.
No,
it's just a gradual kind of creeping.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I finally come to admitting that I had a problem, and I tried to seek help, that was just me at the end of my rope with it. It was, I'd been having conversations with myself for 5-6 years at that point. Do you know what, Matt? In the mirror, this is, do you know what, Matt? Monday, that's it. From Monday, we're doing a week free. Yeah. And it'd be Thursday, and I'm like, oh God, just, it just got to a stage where, yeah, like I say, it creeps up, and it's very, now I've got to that point where, I've acknowledged it, and I'm like, yeah, I needed to get that help, and I did go off and get that help. So like the first time round, if you like, and I went to.
Did you try? I mean, you were saying that you tried sort of stopping for the week, and then towards the end of the week it was getting difficult. Do you think that was just a choice, or it's a kind of loaded question? I think you know where I'm going with it, but it's kind of, what was it, a choice that you were deciding at the end of the week, or was it something that, did it get to the point where you couldn't control it?
Yeah, absolutely. Those conversations, of I'm going to stop on Monday, and this week it's going to be different. That was every single week where I was, I was talking to myself like, Matt, we need to get a handle on this. When I had the kids, that was 2010. Jack was born. It was like, right. And again, that was another thing. Like I was saying, like, when this happens, I'll stop. When that happens, I'll. And it was like, when I'm doing the electrical, I'll stop. Or when the house is done, I'll stop. Or when we move house, or when I have kids, and I just kept kicking that can down the road.
Yeah.
Just kept kicking it on and on and on. And yeah, that Monday didn't. Stopping on that Monday was really difficult. I could say that every single week. But by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, there's no what, it was like, that's it. It's Friday night. It's my night. I've earned this. I've been through all that this week, and it's so difficult to answer, because it's like, of course, I'm in control of when I go and pour something down my neck. Of course, that's. But I can say hand on heart, I was so illogical. It got to a point where it was it was uncontrollable, and I wasn't drinking for the pleasure. I wasn't drinking for the let's go out and have a beer. It was let's get this down my neck so I can just forget about stuff. You know, it was just I just want to switch off. I've had enough. You know, it was just, and you know what was the coping mechanism back then of a little, let's have a beer, let's have got a frosty in the, a cold one in the fridge. You know, towards the end of that, and you know what realistically is probably on for 20-ish years now drinking. How old am I? Yeah, won't be far off 20 years drinking, but it's quickly got to that. But knowing what I know now, I had the problem way back when. It was always me that was last at the bar, or last orders. I'll get 2 drinks in. I was always last out, always drinking my drinks the fastest. I would always buy extra rounds so that I could have an extra. Like I would drink a pint, and most people would take at least double the amount of time. So I'd be like, do you want another one? I'm going to go and get another one. Or do you want a half? And so, now I can identify them things. So yeah, sorry, I might have gone off.
No, that's what it's all about. So
a bit of a tangent there, but
something you said there was fascinating as well, that a lot of people will see, is that it goes from being something that's fun that you do on a Friday night or a Saturday night when you go into the pub with the mates to being something that's not fun, and it suddenly becomes something that you have to do. So that was interesting when you're saying, when you lose the choice to drink, or then the fun of it just goes out the window.
Even the drink on a Friday night, when I said on the Monday that I wasn't going to drink for the week, it was I was I was climbing the walls to get out of work to get home so I could have a beer. You know what, and now where I'm at now, I feel sorry for that guy. I look back at myself and I'm like, wow, Matt, like there's so much more to life. There's so many other ways of dealing with that issue, with those problems and feeling that stress. I mean, why didn't I walk out? If that job was so much of a stress and a hassle, why didn't I just walk out? It was like, I pinned so much on it. But do you know why? Because I wasn't thinking straight, I was drinking most days of the week. I was operating at 40-50% of my actual capacity. That was my normal. I wasn't in a position to make decisions, life-changing decisions when I was drinking. I didn't have that capacity to make those major decisions and which potentially could influence my life. And they're big calls to make, but I did try in different ways. As I say, I was on antidepressants, and I went to AA meetings, and I've never not wanted to get this right. I've never not wanted to solve this. I've never buried my head in the sand about it.
And what about the side? I mean, there's so many people I speak to that they'll say to me that, like you were saying, they've tried AA, they've tried Dry January, Sober October. Did you ever get to a stage where you were starting to wonder what was wrong with you? Like, why can't I just stop this?
Yeah. Do you know, it's really funny you've said that. You just reminded me of something, of a conversation I had at the weekend, and we were chatting, and he admittedly, had a bit of a drink problem as well, and it was saying, like, people don't, they don't drink as much as us, and it was like, it's almost like we're the normal and everyone's not drinking enough.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bruce, I've gone a little bit off there. What was the question?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. I was listening to what you were saying. So it was more about sort of being, whether you were really struggling with the fact that it wasn't normal. Like, were you struggling? Was there guilt? Was there shame? Was there?
Absolutely.
Were you starting to wonder what's wrong with me? Why can't I stop this?
Yeah, why can't I get a handle on it? You know, it's so difficult because I was trying to get the help. I was going to all the meetings. I was doing the right things, but it was so like I run my year or my life on quarters. So in a quarter of a year, that's how I work really. So I might set myself a goal of doing 90 days, and at the beginning of that quarter, I'll set a focus goal of not drinking for the 90 days. Now, I only ever hit that 25% of the time.
Yeah.
Actually completed that goal. But when I did complete it, although I wasn't drinking, I wasn't physically passing alcohol past my lips, but I was thinking about alcohol. So all I was doing for 90 days was just resisting the urge to have a drink. And then on day 91, wow, we were going hard, and it was,
the races.
Often, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it was.
And then, and seeing you on your work again, don't answer this if you don't want to. Just say no if you don't want to answer it. But what kind of volume would you have been drinking at the worst time?
So at the worst time, so a bit of a truth bomb here as well, really, I guess. So my wife, I'd quit for a while. This has been a problem for years, obviously. So I needed to set some boundaries to myself, and with my wife, I would drink once a week, really, twice a week max, and that would be on a Friday or a Saturday night. So, and if I'm drinking, that would be beer, so I could sit down, enjoy it, at home. Always, I love being kind of in my own space, in my own bubble, if you like. And that would be between 8 and 10 cans of like a high Polish, high strength Polish lager, something like that, 8 to 10 cans. But aside from that, I was also drinking during the week as well, which I was hiding because I didn't want those conversations. I didn't want I didn't want to create arguments. I didn't want to create friction in the house. I didn't want the kids hearing it. But the reality was, I was, in addition to that once or twice at the weekend, I was probably drinking 3 or 4 times during the week as well. And that would be around half a litre of vodka 3 or 4 times a week. And like I said earlier, it was not a point of pleasure. It was scary. I'd even it's mad. Again, that guy that was doing that. It's sad. I feel for him. That.
Yeah. I guess it gets such a grip of people that it's. I always say to people, I never went down the drink road. I went down the drug road. But it was everyone I've spoken to, and when it gets a grip of you like that, we'll come on to it in a second when we talk about the TSM side of it. But the thing that we both know now is that it's a neurological condition that creates the whole thing in the first place. And it just becomes this complete cycle of what's going on here. Why can't I stop? And then the volume's going up, and then why can't I stop? And it just gets worse and worse and worse until you came up with a fascinating expression the other day that when you found the Sinclair Method, it was like a jigsaw. It was all of a sudden it explained what was going on. I now understand what was happening.
Yeah, that mean even just framing it that way for me. Obviously now I've been down this TSM road. There's a lot of things that I now understand that I didn't know. Yeah. And what really surprises me, I spoke to a lot of professionals. I spoke to a lot of people that were dealing with alcohol that didn't that don't have this knowledge or don't have this level of understanding, and it shocks me.
Yeah.
Because when I started to look into the TSM route and actually how it affects the brain, and it clicked. It was like, of course, that makes sense. Well, why hasn't someone told me this before? Why, I've spent hours with counsellors. I've been to AA. Why aren't they? Why hasn't this been explained like this? And it's just, it's scary.
It's a bit of an eye-opener.
It is, Bruce. So the drinking really led to me getting depressed. So I was on antidepressants, and back in 2018, I tried to commit suicide. Now, there's lots of people that have been successful in doing that, and this exists. So had I been successful in that in 2018, I'd have never found this. And this has been around for 15, 20 years, TSM has now. And the way that it works, the way it's explained, it's almost like common sense. And every other method I've heard, or the way it's been explained to me, it's almost like I've had to get on board with that. And it's like AA didn't work for me. Okay, having to believe in a higher power, having to kind of admit you're a failure, that you admit that you can't control yourself, admit you're an alcoholic, and lo and behold, if you have a drink or give into that craving, which again is a new study that I've recently found about the alcohol deprivation effect, which again is just why don't people know about this? It's absolutely mental. Even if you, I'm going off on a tangent, but
go on, because it needs to be said. It needs to be said.
But that didn't work for me, and I always felt like it was trying to be told, like I was to get on board with it, and I had to understand it. And whereas with this, it's like it's common sense, like the studies are common sense. Alcohol deprivation effect is common sense. I was talking to the alcohol deprivation effect to somebody the other day, and I didn't mention the word alcohol. I changed it to chocolate. And what was interesting, and explained it in kind of terms of dieting, and you remove chocolate or sugary foods or whatever, and you send someone on a diet, or you cut something out of their life. Obviously, I'm talking about alcohol behind the scenes here, but to him, I was just talking about chocolate and diet. And he was like, well, and I said, well, what happens when you go back? And he goes, well, it's worse. You have to stuff that chocolate down your face, and then you have to you put the weight back on, and then you go even worse, and it's like then you're even harder the next time. And I'm like, yeah, and then I explained that's how people are with alcohol, and he was like, no, like it just clicked. Yeah. And there was a few examples. Again, I was chatting with him over the weekend, and it was I removed the word alcohol in my explanation of different things. And again, it was like, explaining it to him, who's, he's got a bit of he hasn't got a drink problem anymore, but because he's kind of abstained from it. But yeah, when you kind of explain it in that way and remove the word alcohol, I think that's, for a lot of people, including the word alcohol, alcoholism, alcoholic, anything like that, there's so many connotations that come with that. That actually what you're talking about is addiction. And whether that's, I heard something the other day as well. Someone was like, oh, if someone does heroin, and they come out of heroin, and if they go back to heroin, it's like, oh, the heroin's got him again, and you've got to keep going and keep trying. And it's like, if someone does that with alcohol, it's like, oh, you just need to stop. You just stop drinking. Pull yourself together. But again, it's an addiction. It's the same. Strip everything else away and just deal with the addiction. We're all talking about the same thing here. yeah, just really interesting to me.
Yeah, and again, I know you don't have your comments up. We just had a few people commenting. Karen from the States, Karen, the young lady, Karen's Katie's co-founder. She's with us. She's with us. TSM saves lives in more ways than one, she says. Absolutely. And yeah, Karen and Katie, keep doing what you're doing. An amazing job.
Yeah, and I just want to say, while we're just onto that, like Karen and Katie were a massive part of my journey, my learning, my understanding, thrive alcohol recovery. For anyone that's watching in the States, and it completely opened my mind to it. Any question that I had, there was some sort of video on it. It was amazing. And what those two are doing over there is incredible. They're changing the world. They really are.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a few other people saying, yeah, hello, hi, and guy Steve, he's from England as well, so we're always we're slagging him off because he's English, and there's always that Scotland England thing. So he's on your side. So just going back to the Karen saying, nice to meet you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your story. Honoured to be part of your journey. So,
no, thank you.
So, thanks for what you're doing, Karen. Absolutely amazing. So, going back to TSM, how did you find it?
So, I was drunk in bed, and I was watching YouTube. I'd come to the end of my rope with it. I was just like, from last year, we went on holiday, and from when I got back from holiday, I pretty much drank 5-6 days a week, every week, and I just got to a point where I was just at the end of my rope again with it. It was just like, I need help now. It's getting uncontrollable. It's, I felt I was just in a world of just depression, and it was just back to the norm, and I was emotional all the time. And I reached out to the place where I went to last time, which has changed its name, but it was called the Recovery Partnership, which is like a Warwickshire-based service, I think. And they'd helped me the first time around. It was abstinence-based, obviously. You had to stop drinking. You had to do a mood diary, and some of these other things that you absolutely question. But anyway, I was on board with it. I phoned them up and I was like, look, I need some help. And they were like, oh, someone will phone you back within 48 hours. It's like, right, okay. So like 2 days of drinking later, nobody had phoned me. So after the weekend, I phoned them, nothing. And then about a week, I think it was a week, and I spoke to this lady on the phone, and she was like, oh, well, they shouldn't have told you that. We just, we've got a calendar. And I was just like, look, there's just so many hurdles here that you're just putting up, and I want help. I just want help. And there was a postcode thing. Oh, you're not in this postcode, so you need to go to this place. You need to phone this number. I was like, you phoned me a week later, and I was just frustrated. And guess what I did? I went home, had a drink, because that's how I dealt with my problems. Rule number one, go and have a drink to solve it. So I was on YouTube. I'd had a drink, went up. I was on YouTube, and I'd saved this video, and it was like the last video you'll ever watch on alcohol, and this will change your mind forever. And I watched this video, and it was just absolute nonsense. Just total clickbait. And YouTube does this thing where it auto plays the next video, whatever you call it. Yeah. And it was Claudia Christian, and it was a TEDx talk on the Sinclair Method. And immediately I was like, oh God, another clickbait, just something else, some other nonsense. But the more she talked, I was just, it was like she was it was like she was me and saying these things out loud that really only a person who kind of thinks about alcohol that much would relate to. And I was like, I can really relate to that. Like I get that. And I'm like, she said 2 or 3 things. And I was like, that's me. Yeah, that's me. That's me. And then she explained the method and how it works. And I was like, wow. So I watched probably another 5, 6 videos, probably 5 or 6 of Katie's videos on it. The Thrive videos. And I came across yourself as well, Bruce. And I learned, I thought, I'm gonna research this. So I spent like the next 2 weeks just researching everything, anything to do with TSM, the cure for alcoholism. I read the book, the One Pill documentary, watched that. But I was going, like, I must have watched 48 hours worth of videos on YouTube. It was, I knew it. It was like before I even went down that road, I was listening to testimonials. I was reading people's reviews. I was joining the Facebook groups, and I was reading people's stories. I think it was the day after or 2 days after I told my wife, and I was like, I think we need to like really look into this. And for those who don't know the method or don't know the method, you actually continue to drink to reduce your alcohol. And for me to turn around to my wife and say, hey, I found this method that's going to sort me out, but I need to drink. She was like, oh yeah, okay, where's this going, kind of thing. But she, Danny was on board straight away. I would watch a YouTube video and then I would send it to her. She would watch the YouTube video, and like we'd get back at night and then we'd discuss it. Oh, did you remember what she said and he said? And it was exciting. It wasn't. I'd not heard of it. It was that was a massive thing. Like, why haven't we heard of this? But if this really works, why haven't I heard of this then? And then. Yeah, we took the plunge. I took the plunge a couple of weeks later, and it was like from day one, total change. Like my first drink was just completely different. Now, initially I was a bit like, you've got to accept, Matt, there's probably a placebo effect in this, and you know what? I was happy to take a placebo. Because at the end of the day, if it's going to reduce my drinking, then I'm happy to be on board with that. That doesn't bother me at all. But just as time went on, and I didn't change too much immediately. I set myself a few boundaries because I wanted. What you have to be aware of is it's not like a paracetamol. It's not like heartburn tablet. You can't just take it and it does all the work. I.e. remove the headache or remove the heartburn. It doesn't operate like that. It needs, my opinion, obviously, but it needs support alongside it. Obviously, I'd researched so much about it. I can show you the notes I've got on it. Like I used to watch these YouTube videos and make pages and pages of notes on it. I used to watch the Q&As and make notes and notes. I was so invested in it. But as I was starting to do it, and the second time, the third time, and as I say, I set these boundaries up. So one of the boundaries was I'm going to drink twice a week, and that's it. And that way, it was a Tuesday and a Friday night, and that way I'm only ever 3 days away from a drink. And for me, and again, I know you're not supposed to white knuckle it. Sorry, and what that means, white knuckling, that's just kind of a throwaway phrase for us now. But that means is don't just, if you've got the craving, run with give into it almost, and follow the method if you like. But because I'd given myself 2 days a week and I was only ever 3 days away, it took a massive pressure off me. I was like, I know I can drink. I haven't got to hide it. I haven't got to wait till next Friday. I'm only ever free. And that took a massive pressure off me. And I was like, I almost relaxed with that. The other thing, obviously, 100% compliance with the method. That's non-negotiable. That's a golden rule. You don't mess with that. That's the rule. The rule is the rule. And I put the drinks in the fridge. So we've got 2 fridges. I've got one in the garage, and I used to pour myself half a drink. So, and those were my boundaries basically. So I would only ever pour a half, and almost create hurdles for myself. So it would pattern interrupt. So instead of me just pint, this fridge, which is just, down here, pint, it was, I've got to go outside now and, go and get another half. But it was enough of a, to trip me up, if you like, and make me consider and think about it. So, yeah.
And just a quick, just in case anyone's watching that doesn't know the process, we use a medication called naltrexone, and we take it 1 hour before you have your first drink. It's an opiate inhibitor. It reduces the endorphin in the brain, and as a secondary effect, it rewires the neurological pathways. So over a period of time, it basically de-addicts the addicted brain. So what Matt's talking about is that he took the medication and then went through over a period of time that it then starts moving into where you were. So yeah, and you were compliant all the time.
100%. Yeah, at least waited the full hour. Again, just the little tips and tricks that I picked up. I always ate a full meal on when I took the tablet. That also put me off drinking as well, which again is just another way of accelerating this process and how quickly it can kind of help and happen. There's so many things to say about it. I just don't even know where to start, really. I guess.
One thing I was going to say was that the crazy thing that I see when I'm working with people is you see the clients when they first come to me or start talking to me, and then you see them through the process. I won't mention any names because it's a live thing, but there's someone put a message up here that obviously knows you, and they said they can't believe the change I've seen in you, Matt.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'll show you the message later on, but it's obviously someone that knows you, so it's
yeah.
So it's I think a lot of the times though, it's really easy to see Matt as he is now, but to be able to see, I didn't know you in the days back in the days, but I've seen it with other people. The transformation with people is absolutely incredible, and it's so fast forwarding on a little bit just now then, and are you? I mean, today, are you still climbing the walls, wanting a drink in between your drinks, or are you?
Well, this is
loaded.
It is a loaded question. Good shout. But so of every time I've tried to get a handle on the drinking before, like I said earlier, it was going abstinent for me. Let's say I was going to say do a month, 2 weeks, a week. All it meant was I was just fighting a craving until the next drink. Like I said, I was alcohol free, but alcohol was still, it still consumed all my thoughts. I was still like, every time I passed the off license, the one I always went to, it was, I was fighting not pulling over and going in there. It was, but like I can't tell you. I wish I could open my brain up and show people, because it's fascinating to me. Like I do not. I think the first time I noticed it, in fact, my wife noticed it. We were in the fridge, so we were out in the back. We're in the garage. We've got a freezer out there as well, a big chest freezer. we're pulling out some food, and it was a Friday night, and I went in the fridge where I keep the beer, and I saw there was like I drink these little French stumpy beers now. They're like 4%, but because they're like half pint pours, so I just opened one and I know I've had half, so it's measured. And I opened the fridge, and I got the cardboard, because it was one left in the cardboard, and I got the cardboard out and recycled it. And my wife came in and she was like, "Are you not drinking?" I was like, No. She was like, "It's Friday." And I said, "Oh yeah," it completely passed my mind. She said, "But I just saw you get a drink out of the fridge." And I said, "No, I was just putting the recycling out." And the penny dropped. I was like, I've picked up the beer, obviously. I've put it to one side in the fridge on a Friday night when I'm allowed to drink. When I've set, that's the boundary for me that I set. So I'm the green light's there, and I'm not interested. I've got other things to do. My life's much more interesting than what's in the back of that fridge.
And what do you think? I mean, you obviously know the science behind the meds now, but how can you explain what makes the difference?
As a personal feeling, there's no attachment to alcohol, nothing emotional, no thinking about it, no, like when I talk about craving, like I'm not it's not that I'm not craving. It literally doesn't exist to me anymore. I would not be bothered, and that's just not me. It's the person I have been for the last, 18 years around alcohol doesn't on a Friday night say no to a drink that's already in the fridge. But I'm not interested whatsoever. It does not. There's no connection. And honestly, I've been through, like I said, I've tried AA. I've been to these, the recovery partnership. I took tablets for a while to reduce cravings. A Camprosate, I took them, and that was, that's probably the only thing I can liken it to. It reduced the craving. The Camprosate did, but it didn't remove the thought about drinking. It just removed that craving. But lo and behold, I stopped taking that tablet. Guess what came back? Craving. But with this, and what's amazing about it is that a Camprosate, for example, I had to take 3 of these tablets. They're like, I don't know, like made for horses or something. They were huge, these things.
Yeah.
And I had to take 3 of them every day, whether I'm drinking, I'm not drinking. Every single day, you have to take them 3 tablets. But with the Sinclair method, you take that 1 tablet 1 hour before you drink, and that's it. So I don't have to remember to take it every day, or I'm not pushing tablets down my throat. It's only, for me, it's like a contraceptive. It's what I'm just protecting myself before I go into that drinking. Yeah. And that's where I'm at now with it. Obviously, before, while I was leading into this, I was taking the tablet to unwire the brain and to undo all this dependency, I guess. All this, this massive relationship I had with alcohol, and it's revealed a lot of things to me, like my triggers. So now, I don't know what I'm into it, 13, 14 weeks into it now. And that's mad, isn't it? Just said that out loud. Like 3 months, 3.5 months. And literally, so that's 13 weeks or 14 weeks. But 15 or 16 weeks ago, I was drinking 4 or 5 nights a week, pouring vodka down my neck.
Yeah.
That's how mad this has changed. Yeah. Like me and my wife, like we can't talk about it with each other very often. Like, I've caused a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, a lot of distrust over the years. And like when I talk about it with my wife, and like my wife will, I'm going to have to bring her on one of these one day, because she'll tell you from her point of view. It's, it's great me saying this, and it's great me putting this across as though it's me, but Danny's witnessed this, from all that pain for all those years, and now within 13 weeks, 14 weeks, realistically, I could probably go back a month, and I could honestly say, hand on heart, I'm not thinking about alcohol. I'm not. It's not bothering me. It's not creating these things. These impulses to drink, to deal with my problems in that way. So yeah, kind of the interesting thing that has revealed is my habits and my triggers. And really, when you take alcohol out of the situation and you're only left with habits and triggers, they're really easy to deal with and work on. There's so many tools that I've got to work on habits and triggers. And
I think a lot of the little that I know of you, I think you've done a lot of personal work, even when you were drinking, in regards to the periods when you'd stopped and working out triggers and all that kind of stuff. So I think when you started taking Naltrexone, and the reason it happened quite quickly for you, 3 months is at the earlier end of things, was because you had done a lot of personal development work yourself to I always say to people, the hard part of the Sinclair Method is not the craving and the addiction, because all you have to do is swallow a pill for that. It's learning to deal with life and the situations without it. And you'd already done a lot of work in that area already.
Yeah, I've been a massive fan of personal development and working on yourself. And listen, like I said earlier, I've not buried my head in the sand about it. I've been trying to get help. I've been trying to get a fix on this. So, I joined a guy called Paul Moore. It's a course called Unstoppable 2017. Again, I was at the end of my rope. I was living with my dad. I'd moved out the family home. I was drinking every night. And, I came across Paul, spoke to me. I didn't have money at the time. My dad supported me in that, in getting on the course. But I was looking at it as a point of maybe there's something deep down within me that needs fixing. And don't get me wrong, there was. Don't get me wrong. There's been transformations, but the one thing I could never get a handle on genuinely was the drink. And it didn't, it didn't. I looked at so many different ways of approaching it. I've read the books. Like I said, I tried and I tried and I tried. So I went down the personal development route with it. Maybe there's a fix within that. Maybe I'm not dealing with something through that. And I went through that. I still, it's part of my life now. Like the way I live my life all fits in with that. And now that I've got this like jigsaw piece of having TSM, and on it, I feel like I'm the person I'm meant to be. Like I feel like alcohol is no longer a part of me. That alcohol's like, it's just not connected to me in any way now. That I'm living and breathing the person I'm meant to be. Whereas for all that time, I was drinking my way through life, muddling through, let's have another beer, or can't wait till Friday to comes around, or anything like that. Whereas now I'm like, I can't wait to get up in the mornings. There's nothing. It excites me now. I've got so much going on that, like, the last thing I want to do is drink. It's completely off my radar.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm also reading. Karen's just left a message saying, many times people find that once the medication quiets the cravings and thoughts about alcohol, they can finally implement all the strategies they've learned over the years in past recovery. Yeah. Karen's amazing. Karen's knowledge and wisdom Karen's worked in the recovery industry for a number of years. She was an addiction counsellor for years, and she's got a lot of fascinating background understanding of addiction and especially in the abstinence-based programs. So she's basically saying, that the work that's been done, that you've done, and with anybody, when anyone does that hard work on themselves, it can speed the process up.
It's so true, because I had them tools. Where are we? 2023, 6 years ago, when I joined that group. So I had them for 6 years. But because alcohol is such an easy way to deal with the problems, I was faced with working with the tool or just having a beer and forgetting it. And I did go down that route of doing the work and doing all that, but alcohol crept back in. I could never get away from it for long enough. It was like waiting them 90 days, and it was like waiting for me at the end of the drive. It was just that thing of, look, you have your 90 days, Matt, but on day 91, we're going hard. And it would just undo all that work, or what I felt like it was doing, was undoing all that work. And like what Karen just said then is absolutely spot on. So like one of my triggers in January, I was, long story short, me and a friend had a little bit of a disagreement. And I came back into the house. I was raging. I was like, right, Danny, I'm taking a pill and I'm having a drink tonight, which, on the method is completely cool. That's absolutely that's part of the process. You don't call it a drinking session, like we call it extinction sessions, because, like for me, or I'm not far from it. I don't feel that part of the brain that link to alcohol is extinct now. It doesn't exist. So we have these extinction sessions, and the more extinction sessions you have, the more it solidifies the rewiring of the brain, or the different neurological pathways, if you like. So I came in, I was raging, said to Danny, right, I'm having a pill, I'm having a drink tonight. And then I was like, right, I've got to wait this hour. And then I was like, so I grabbed this, I keep all my stuff next to me, and we have these things called Byron Katie worksheets. It's called The Work, and what it does, it just gets you to look at the situation from your point of view, and then turn it around, like look at it from somebody else's point of view, and then actually provide facts that you were wrong, and you provide facts that you were right, and you kind of pull this situation apart. It is amazing, really. You pull this situation, and it's all free. You pull this situation apart and put it back together, and just looking at it from a different or couple of different perspectives. So I've done this work while I'm waiting this hour, done this worksheet, and I'm like, I feel pretty good about that situation. I was like, do you know what? I think he needed to hear that. And I'm glad, I'm kind of glad we had that disagreement. And in fact, that night I didn't drink. So how mad's that? So it's a Friday night. I've had an argument. I've been triggered. I've come in. I've told my wife that, and in fact, truth. Let me just run on to that in a second. I've come in and I've told my wife about it. I've waited the hour, and now I don't want to have a drink. I'm just not interested in having a drink. I mean, how mad is that? Like, seriously, how mad is that? That's not me. Matt doesn't do that. It's like, it's mad. The other thing I was going to say was just about that truth thing. So another thing that I did coming into doing TSM was a wipe the slate clean. So as I said to you, before, I'd hidden things. I didn't want them conversations. And believe it or not, those lies are exhausting as well. You almost have to drink to forget the lies, and you just get curled up in them. Like where are you gonna hide that bottle? Where does that go in the morning? How do you get rid of that? Where do you get the next bottle the next day? It just turns into a whole rabbit hole. It's so time consuming having these thoughts. Like it is so I feel like I've got so much energy and time and my life back. But yeah, just going back to the truth, I wiped the slate clean with Dan, and I told her everything, where I was at, what I was doing, and who I want to be really, and there's lots of lies that we tell, or certainly I was telling, and that was lies to Danny's face. If she asked me a question, I would lie directly because I didn't want the argument. I didn't want the conflict. I didn't want the criticism. I didn't want that mirror being held up in front of me. But then there's lies of omission. The lies that you're not telling, the things that you're hiding. So even if someone's not asking you a direct question, you're still lying by being deceitful. And for me, again, I just think it was just a part of my TSM journey is wiping that slate clean, being open, being honest, and just saying, look, this is where I'm at, and I'm really struggling, and I can't carry on like this. But I need you to have my back. I need you to go into this with me, and I need you to trust me with it. And now I can come in, and I can, like before, like with that stressed out situation I was talking about, there's no way I would tell Danny about that. I was out at the time. I would have gone and got a drink, and I would have come back, gone and got a drink, had a drink, come back in the house, and just avoided conversation, avoided eye contact, sat in front of the sofa, and just gone into my own little world, and argued with him in my own head, and dealt with the situation that way. Woke up, completely forgotten about it all, and then carry on about my life. But now I can actually come in and I can get it off my chest, and I'm like, oh, you never know what happens. And it's like, well, what's happened? And, I can have a conversation about it now. Whereas before I wasn't doing any of that. I was dealing with all these problems in my own head, not getting it out there, like putting it like that Byron Katie, the work, putting them thoughts down on paper, put them on paper. They're not up here anymore. It's decluttering. It's getting it out there. And it's the same with the truthfulness and being honest. That's just, I feel that's accelerated my journey so much. And you know what? Me and Danny are, our relationships has got so much better, obviously because of the alcohol, obviously, but also because of the honesty and the truth. And, Danny, I can say I was hiding it, yeah, and I was drinking without Danny knowing. Danny knew every time. She could smell me. She could see my eyes. She could hear my slurring. And she was also avoiding them situations and them conflicts and those arguments. And now I can be honest, and as I say, our relationship's that much better. But there's also a weight of, there's a massive weight off my shoulders as well because of it. I don't have to be deceitful. I don't have to lie. I don't have to cover my tracks. And that's freedom. You don't, honestly, there's so much freedom in being honest and telling the truth. And like you said to me, you don't have to answer this. It's up to you whether you answer this. I've got nothing to hide. And if just one person listened to this and thought, you know what, maybe there's something I need to be truthful about, or maybe drink's a bigger problem than I might admit to other people, but I've admitted it to myself, then that's worth it. But I've got nothing. I'm not shameful of this. In fact, I'm proud of this now. I'm in a position where I've gone through all of this, and it's brought me to where I am now. Like I feel, like I said, I feel like me. I feel whole. I feel like I'm my true self because I've got nothing to hide. No one can say anything about me. No one can turn anything on me. Because I've said it all. It's all out there.
And it takes, and again, thank you very much. I mean, it takes guts. It takes the thing I've clicked with you with is that you lay your heart on your, what's the expression? Your heart's on your sleeve. And the thing I love about the Sinclair Method is it allows it creates a positive environment. It creates that environment naturally. I don't know how it does it, but I'll kind of analyze it over the next few years, I suppose. But it's something that Karen's also said as well, that it feels as if addiction to alcohol was a distant memory. So does it feel at the moment like it's something that happened in the past, or are you still there with it, or do you know what I mean? Do you feel as if it's
so?
Where are you at now, headwise with it? Is it kind of
so headwise? Like I genuinely do not think about alcohol. It's not connected to me at all. The only thing, and I mentioned this to you, was I kind of had this, and I know that this isn't a thing and it can't happen, but I had this nervousness around, because I like in January I went for 18 days without drinking. That was not planned. I'm allowed to have a drink twice a week. I've got beers in the fridge there, sat there. I've got tablets on the side there, sat there. So I can have a drink whenever I want, you know. And I went 18 days, and I was getting towards the end of the 18 days, and I was like, the thing that was playing on my mind was, can this undo itself? Because I'm not taking the tablet, and because I'm not drinking, because I'm not having these extinction sessions, can it unwire to some degree? And that was the only thing that played on my mind. And not this weekend, just gone, the weekend before. I decided to have an extinction session. So a drink, you know. So I took a tablet. I waited I took the dogs for a walk. I think I waited for about an hour and a half. And I had half a pint. So I had one of them French stumpies. And I was done. I was just... what was on my mind was, like, at the moment I'm looking at this, like, I've got a new business venture going on, and I just wanted to wake up the next day and work on that business. And like, as I said, there's just other things now, whereas before the drinking was my life, and it was like I couldn't wait to have another drink. And as soon as you open that first drink, well, that was a night of just chasing that feeling for the rest of the night. Well, now, like, I've had half a pint, and I'm like, you know, if I have any more, I'm going to feel a bit jaded tomorrow. I'm not going to sleep so well, and I want to be up and I want to be on it. And it's like a magnet, you know. It's like it's like, you know, magnets. You can, like, they repel.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that now. You know, it's kind of gone the other way for me. I'm a little bit like, yeah, I'd just rather not. But
how much of a I'm trying to figure out if this is a Scottish expression or if it's... I'm sure you'll understand what I'm saying, though. Sorry, Karen, and for anyone from the States, if you're listening, you probably won't get this one, but I'll explain it. How much of a head mince was it? Is that a Scottish expression? How much of a head mince? It must be a Scottish one. I was thinking head mince. I know the other expression of it, but I don't know the polite version. How did it screw up your head? The actual process. I mean, was it... Because it must be crazy if again, I'm speaking to clients that are going through the whole process, and you go from a stage where you're struggling drinking a stack of vodka to all of a sudden, 3 months later, it's just not an issue. It's just not an issue anymore. So it must really play with... Or does it? Yeah. I mean, is it just something that happens naturally, or...
So I can't... I said earlier, like, I can't talk about it with Danny. Like, we do talk about it, but we cry. You know, we're so emotional about it.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, this has tormented me for years, and I've tried so many different ways, and, you know, I'm not, you know, it's very easy for someone to say, well, you just didn't try hard enough, or you didn't try long enough, or you know, I tried my best. Yeah, I'll say that, hand on heart, I tried my best. But like, you know, it is difficult for me because, like I said, in 2018, you know, I tried to end. I couldn't see past it. You know, I was drinking myself into a state of depression. You know, I could have committed suicide, and I'd have never experienced or known this. And that's, you know, it scares me to think how many people have done that. You know, alcohol-related deaths, and you know, this exists. You know, it's not painful. You know, why? I think there's a little bit of a thing associated to that as well. You know, like you need to fight it back. You know, it needs to be hard work to get this solved, and it's not supposed to be easy. But who said that? Who said that? You know, why isn't it? And now, you know, now I understand it the way I do, and the way I had to look at it. Like, for me to get on board with it, really, was I had to look at it as though it was a disease. And I know it is classified as a disease, but you know, there was a massive part of me that was like, I should be able to journal my way out of this. I should be able to meditate my way out of this. I should be able to, and I have thought like that for years. But when I looked at it as though it's a disease, and you know, like for epilepsy, for example, if you know, you take a tablet for that, and that fixes. Like, you gave a great example yesterday on a live about epilepsy, and that's the way I had to look at it. You know, if I was a diabetic and I have to take insulin, you know, to support that, and that's not frowned upon. So, you know, why should it be frowned upon for me to treat a neurological disease with a tablet that works on the neurological receptors? It makes sense. Yeah. And that was what I concluded, that this all made sense. Then I went down the road of doing it. So I did all my research, did all the looking into it. Then I've done it. I wish I could open up my mind in some other way, and because I know what that path is like. I know that someone saying this to me, who, when I was in AA, someone saying this to me, I'd be like, no, you can't. How come everyone doesn't know about it then?
Yeah.
Being a point of, you know, you need to give it a good fight, and all this. Who said that? Who made up them rules? You know, it's this exists. Technology's moved on. You know, science has moved on. Medicine has moved on. You know, we've now got this disease that is treatable. And if you just look at it like that, and you know, there's a massive thing around this abstinence thing, and it's difficult because I've been there, and I do understand the side of the coin that you need to stay away from it. But I couldn't get that, and I couldn't buy into a higher power being able to fix this, and it being reliant on someone else. You know, it was for me to fix, and for me, you know, I put myself here. I wanted to fix this, and I just think that if you are in a position of an AA has worked for you, that don't stop anybody else from doing this or nudging someone else in your direction or somebody else. This is just an option. Like, I'm not saying that because AA didn't work for me that it's not going to work for someone else. I'm not saying that the recovery partnership, or whatever it's called now, is not going to work for somebody else because it didn't work for me. And I'm not going to say that TSM is going to work for you because it worked for me. You know, these are just different options that we've all got. And these options need to be on the table for everyone, and they're not.
Yeah. Yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Absolutely incredible. I think it's just so. When you said you were going to come on as well, it's the challenge with what we do is that, and I know Karen and Katie have it as well, is because, just like you said tonight, that someone's journey on this can be very, very personal and very intense and very just everything. And to try, most people, because of society and because we keep it very under the lid at the moment, especially in the UK, and there's a lot of guilt and shame wrapped around it, then very few people are willing to come out and say it. So it's incredible. Thank you very much for talking about it. I mean, and especially, there's one thing a lot of people will talk about TSM in a general kind of way, but you've just laid your heart right on the table. So thank you. And I know that a lot of people, it will really, really have an impact on a lot of people. And like you say, if it touches one person, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only thing, if anyone is looking to do this, like I'm in a lot of the Facebook groups, and so like the Facebook groups, and there's an awful lot of misinformation. I could literally open my phone now, and there's someone that's got naltrexone, and they're like, do you have to wait the full hour? And there's not been any, it's like somebody said to them, oh, I've done this, you should have a look at this, and they've just Googled it and then just got like, as I said earlier, the naltrexone does its side of it, but it's a for me, I believe it's a 40-60. So 40% of the heavy lifting is done by TSM, by naltrexone, but the 60% is on you, and it's on you to do that research. I think you need, personally, you need to do the study, you need to do the research, you need to watch Claudia's TEDx, you need to watch the One Little Pill documentary, you need to read The Cure for Alcoholism. Do your research, get a coach. There's Thrive in the USA. In the UK, there's Alcohol Recovery Scotland. Get yourself a coach. Get someone who knows the facts. Get someone who knows what they're dealing with, because you're going to have so many questions come up. There's going to be things that you're going to panic on. Am I not allowed to do this? Am I allowed to do this? And unfortunately, on open forums, there's so much misinformation. I read one that was like, I think they were saying like smoke cannabis because it's easier to come off than alcohol. And I was like, what? Who's even saying that? Like, does that, say it out loud? Just say it out loud. It makes no sense at all. Like, do your research. Don't jump into this thinking and it is coined a magic pill. I get that. But don't jump into this thinking it's a magic pill. It's not a magic pill. It requires, I believe, coaching support and knowledge. Don't jump into this thinking it's just, I'm going to do this and everything's going to be solved, because there's so many people that are in them groups that, I did TSM 3 months ago, I did TSM 6 months ago, I did TSM a year ago, but I didn't wait the hour, or, there's just so many things and tips and tricks, and that only the experts or by doing your research that you'll find out. It's out there, but it's having that focused knowledge, that focus, and working with someone at the same time is paramount.
It's priceless, yeah. Right, we need to do this again, I think, soon. I'm kind of guessing we've only got half the story. Well, not even half the story tonight. So it's absolutely incredible. There's been a couple other messages. Karen says, Karen again, who runs, she's co-founder of thrivealcoholrecovery.com. So Karen was saying that it's for her, it was just like alcohol. The desire for it just fell away, just disappeared. And she says, thank you very much for the courage to talk about your experience. So yeah, absolutely. Steve says, well done. Head mint. Steve uses the word head mint. Does that mean anything? Anyway, we'll talk about it after. it must. I never realised that head mints was a Scottish expression. I need to.
Yeah, I still don't know what it means. What did it mean?
It's. I don't know what the polite expression. The head mints is just the polite Scottish version of it.
Right, okay. You can tell me.
I'll tell you afterwards. Yeah, no, well, we're going to have to do this again soon if you're all right for it. Yeah. Steve's never heard of it either, so I'll tell you what it is, and then you can give me the English polite version, and then we'll do it next time we come on. So, but honestly, I mean, it's Steve and I only met 3 or 4 weeks ago, and like you've heard tonight, just completely honest, upfront, and it kind of explains. It's quite hard when we're running with Karen and Katie and myself, when we're running organizations, and we come up here and we say, listen, this thing is probably, in our opinion, one of the best models of recovery available for anyone today. Now, a lot of people will say to us that, yeah, that's because you do that. That's what you do for a living, blah, blah, blah. But it's just really nice to to take it away from us so that you can actually hear it, a real story of someone who's actually been through it. And like you're saying, Matt, I wish that I could have cameras in here or audible during the day so people could hear the conversation. I had a conversation with a guy today. 180 units a week he was drinking. 21 weeks ago. That's 18 to 20 bottles of wine a week. That was 80 to 100 bottles of wine a month. 21 weeks ago, that's what he was drinking. Today, he's been sober now for 4 weeks. No craving, no white knuckling it, like you were saying. And the crazy thing is like you're saying, Matt, when we start to hear the real stories of what's happening, how many other people in the UK and the States with Katie and Karen, how many people in the States and all over the world are in the position that Matt was in 4 weeks ago?
You take that story of that guy there. So he was clearing that many bottles a month. Now, if he had to go down an abstinence-based program, he would have had to go on a serious detox to make it safe for him to come down from that level. Just to make it safe for him to come down to that level. But with the Sinclair Method, he's treating himself whilst he's coming down. So like I said, we call them extinction sessions. So every time he has a drink, he's actually healing his own brain. He's actually rewiring the neurological pathways to a point where 4 weeks ago, he stopped drinking. Now, just go to that other method of stopping drinking and having to detox or reduce his drinking to then detox. From that period then to 4 weeks ago, he would, and I know this from personal experience, I would have just been in a world of pain of fighting a craving. That's all I'm doing. So yeah, I might not be drinking, might not physically be passing alcohol past my lips, but alcohol still owns me, and it's still waiting for me at the end of the drive for the next time I'll go and have a drink, because I'm gonna go even harder at it. Whereas with this, he's reduced it in such a way whilst using the method to a point where he's volunteer, because there's no way 20 weeks ago he was thinking, I'm going to stop drinking, because it wasn't on my radar. All I wanted to do was get down to a safe level of drinking. So I was drinking about 80 units a week. So all I wanted to do was reduce that to around 15, 16 units a week to be safe. And I'm not drinking out of choice. It would never have been on that guy's radar to stop drinking. Never, ever, ever. He just wanted to reduce. He's just aware that he's going to die a lot sooner or end up in hospital or have serious health implications if he didn't do something about his alcohol, because it's crept up on him to a point where he's now dragging his wheelie bin out with it chinking and rattling down the drive, praying to God that it doesn't tip over in the wind or something and open out in front of all his neighbours, you know. And it's a choice. That I think that's what's the mad thing about this is. Like, I'm choosing not to have a drink. It's not that I'm not giving in to the craving.
Yeah, like, you're not fighting it on a day-to-day basis.
I'm not fighting anything. I'm not fighting a thing. I'm choosing. I've got that off switch back. I own it now. And
I remember, like, Karen, when Karen worked in the abstinent-based industry as well, which was my background initially. And when I first started working with the Sinclair Method, like you, I actually saw Claudia's TED talk the first time, and I switched it off, and I was fuming. I didn't just think, oh, that's interesting. I was angry because I thought that is the biggest load of absolute codswallop that I've ever heard in my life. And how dare someone come on here and try and say that there's a 78% success rate when this is people's lives you're dealing with. I was angry, and every time I speak to Claudia now, I apologize. But it's a case of when you start to realize what I was going to say was that when I then started working with clients, I worked from the house upstairs. I started working with clients, and then the first client it worked for, the second client it worked for, the third client it worked for. And I would come downstairs in tears in front of my wife, Mandy, and I'd just look at her and I'd say, this works. And you know what it's like, Matt, because it's like, because you're so used to being around a situation where people are trying their hardest, like you. They're going to rehabs, they're going to counseling, they're going to therapy, they're going to everything. They're working hard, and then they relapse 2 weeks later. And they're all good people. And you then start to realize, well, and then all of a sudden it was working. And I said to Mandy, and I'd come down in tears, I said, this works. And it was absolutely mind-blowing for a while to actually realize that it works. And it's just, I think it's incredible to hear. I can't say thank you enough for just talking about your journey and just being upfront with it. Thank you.
No, it's cool. You're welcome. I've enjoyed it.
So we'll need to come back again. Just another couple of comments. It can do for some people, but a structured support program is definitely beneficial. A great TSM testimony, Matt. This will help and inspire many. That's Steve from Englandshire. You thought, what a load of something, Bruce. I get it 100%. Okay. Yeah, I did. I was fuming. I remember taking a photograph with in the rehab centres. The lads would go and play football on a Monday night, and they came back. We had it was a 10-bed unit, a 10-bed residential unit. We had 10 lads sitting there, and I took a photo of them. And I remember somebody saying that there was 1 in 10 will make it. And I've still got that photo today. And I know that 3 of them are dead today. They've relapsed and they just couldn't stay sober. And Matt and I, it's not right. It's just not right that it's happening.
Well, the stats are the stats, aren't they? You know, we can argue, you know, or we can be. People can say, you know, abstinence is the only way. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. I mean, you know, maybe that was true. Maybe it was, but you know, times have changed, and we need to move on. And you know, science has moved on, and I think as a society, we need to move on as well. You know, I think it's something like, so the stats are the stats there. So like 1 in 10 people that go down the abstinence route method, so 10% at best is going to get the help they need, and by that means that they commit to not drinking for the rest of their life. That's 1 in 10. Whereas this method is 78% success rate. So just the stats are the stats. What are you arguing with? You know, what's the conversation? There's people, there's me, you know, there's that, and like I did my research. You know, if someone wants to come on and tell me that it's not true, and there'll always be a seat for me at AA. And well, that's cool, mate, but you'll never see me there. You know, the worst thing that could happen for me, like genuinely, is I have to take my tablet and then have a drink. I have another extinction session, which just solidifies the method. It's just it's mad. Like,
it's a head mint.
I get it now. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I think we've covered it all.
So yeah, brilliant. Right, I think we better call it a night, or we'll be here till midnight. But no, we'll just need to do it again, I think. But thank you very much, Matt, and everyone saying thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. Awesome. And I'm sure we'll hear and see from you lots of different places very, very shortly. So, but again, I know I keep saying it, but I can't say thank you enough for it's. We could go right down another track. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. So, Karen says thank you very much, and Steve says thank you. And again, Karen, Matt knows a lot about the work that you guys are doing in the States. ThriveAlcoholRecovery.com. If you're in America or Canada, or if you're watching this on playback on Facebook, Karen is the co-founder of Thrive Alcohol Recovery. They run a program in the States, her and Katie. Katie's on here quite often. Karen was actually on last month, I think. We need to get you on more often as well, Karen. Maybe we'll do one night, we'll get Karen and Katie and Matt and ourselves and have a
be meeting the celebrities. Yeah, but yeah, and
brilliant.
In addition to that, you know, Bruce, it's in the UK. You know, there's help here as well. You know, we can find you so easily. Alcohol Recovery Scotland. You know, reach out to me. You know, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with people and on a personal on a one-to-one level, and answer any questions. You know, there's a massive thing around kind of anonymity and not wanting to come forward, and maybe to a degree, you know, I'm breaking the mold by doing that, and you know, like Claudia did, and like Katie's done, and Karen's done, and you know, it's going to take a few people to break this this kind of mold and this stigmatism around alcoholism. But as I said earlier, if we call it what it is, you know, it's a disease and it can be treated as a disease. Let's get a handle on it. We can do that. But for now, until that becomes a social norm and becomes a social acceptance, there's anonymity here. You know, there's you speak to Bruce, Alcohol Recovery Scotland, you speak to Katie or Karen, Thrive. You know, I'm not set up as as anything, but you know, if anyone wants to Facebook me, anything like that, you know, I'm happy to. It's you know, until we get to that stage, until there's platforms where really we can help people, then you know, there's still help now. You know, don't feel that there's not.
Yeah, brilliant, Matt. Whatever you do, always take your pill. If you don't, I know where you live now, so I'll come and find you and ram it down your throat. So just for one quick thing to finish on, someone said to me the other day, but yeah, it relies on someone having a drink. It relies on somebody always taking the pill. And I said, absolutely. And I said, abstinent relies on someone not having a drink. And I said, I know which one's easier.
Yeah, so do I. First hand.
Yeah, first hand. Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. And we'll probably be back in a couple of weeks again. I'm kind of judge saying that we will be, but I'll need to speak to Matt. But we'll be back very soon again and have another chat about all things TSM. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll speak to you soon.